the dislikes are even worse now. What are we talking about? Trash taste. They brought up on a certain content creator that a lot of people really, really didn't like. And let's look at it now. Right over here.
Anime.
It's about that's crazy. Combined is 100,000, likes and dislikes together. 76K. That pretty much is like 76, 76% dislikes out of 100%. Damn, the ratio is crazy. And got a little bit more follow-up.
What's up, guys? Riff here. So today we're going to be talking briefly about Hasan Piker. Now, I think everyone watching this video is aware of his long history of unhinged takes.
He got banned yesterday. He's already unbanned, though. I mean, you know what happens with preferential treatment.
However, I believe some of this rhetoric has definitely increased over the past week or two because his most valuable currency, his ego, has been threatened by two events. And they're both relevant to the type of topics we talk about on this channel, hence why we're making this video today. Those two events are the Trash Taste podcast situation,
we know about
as
that.
well, in his own words, his dethroning as the top political streamer on Twitch.
To a balding man. The Roach King himself. Asmongold. Top political content. I don't think he even considers himself as like the political streamer. I don't think he's ever admitted that, but the numbers don't lie.
By Asmongold. Now, when I say increasingly unhinged takes, I'm more saying the frequency at which he makes these unhinged statements. In fact, during the whole Trash Taste podcast situation from about a week ago, his immediate response was talking about things, including his idea of having a terrorist propaganda tier list live on Twitch, which obviously if he did that, he would face no punishment. In fact, you'd probably get a...
Because he's a golden child, right? So it is actually crazy if you really think about what they're doing and how they just get away with it.
Special cameo and other birthday song from Dan Clancy himself.
Dan Clancy, if you don't know, CEO of Twitch. He loves Hasan. He loves his politics. So obviously there's a lot of safeguarding that happens.
So what am I talking about? Well, this is the clip making the rounds right now on social media. Let's give this a quick listen.
There's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid, just in fraud alone. No.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott, okay? You wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, Rick Scott, you wouldn't make him a prominent part of the Republican Party.
There's about...
To unpack that, a lot of people are calling it like a call of violence, right? Call to action. You would is the key word there. A lot of things to talk about regarding who that even is and what the topic is about, but at the end of the day, kind of sounds crazy, right? To just be able to say that shit. Now, the would, I guess, is a big qualifying statement. Anyways, I think this is the thing that a lot of people are complaining about recently, and he got banned for it for about just a day, right?
Yep, that's Hasan directing people to kill a sitting U.S. senator.
Crazy.
Normally, that would get you a knock on your door from the FBI at the very least, but I think everyone looking at this objectively would say if you were a regular streamer, you would not only be banned for saying this, you'd probably be permabanned. You would never come back.
Or if you're a VTuber, bro. Poor VTubers, man. VTubers will literally show like a little bit of like G-string lines, on the hip side and just get permanently banned. And this just gets a slap on the wrist for one day.
To this platform. And also what makes this even more hilarious is the fact that not even a year ago, he made a similar threat to another U.S. official with this quote tweet here sharing this image, which for context was the...
I think this is how the Japanese prime minister or president, didn't he get assassinated by someone who literally had this gun?
Weapon that was crafted to assassinate the former prime minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe.
Yeah,
so he has a
that.
history of doing this. And like I said, right now, I want to look at the two events that I think are kind of making him spiral because his ego is being challenged in ways that don't sit well with him. The first one, as I said, is the Trash Taste podcast situation. For those who didn't watch my video a few days ago about this, he went on as a special guest to this Trash Taste podcast, which is run by the Anime Man, Dog VA, as well as Giguk, three prominent channels in the anime content creation space. And as you can see, people reacted very, very negatively to this. And as I said, I respect the boys who run this podcast. I think generally they have good intentions with things, but I think they grossly miscalculated how people would respond to his appearance as a special guest on the podcast. They even said they expected like a few negative comments.
The amount of comments, like if you again compare the amount of like comments on this, bro, this has almost 50,000 comments right now. Most of them are just all negative comments saying, I can't believe you've done this. Let's look at some other videos like this one. This got 750,000 views almost. Look at the comments on this one, right? Not even close. 1,000. Like, do you see? It's an entire magnitude of difference. That's actually fucking crazy. The amount of not only dislikes, but the comments as well. The backlash was insane. And you know what? Just like about 5 years ago, which is also crazy to say, but I think 5 years ago, or roughly, that's when he really, Hasan, anyways, crazy trailer over here, Yuri Mermaid coming. Hasan was like the poster child, right? Left-leaning policies, ideologies, revolutions for the working class, blah, blah, blah. Very beloved, very well-accepted person, but again, political paradigm shift has been happening. He's been saying more and more unhinged, extreme things, and people have pretty much decided that this is kind of fucked up, and this is what you get now. The people have spoken. It's not just like brigades, even though I absolutely agree that there definitely are brigaded dislikes here. This is not organic trash taste engagements. Absolutely not. But now it's coming more and more into light of how much people do not fuck with this.
Definitely don't think they expected 99% of the comments to be negative in regards to the choice of special guest. And when we covered this about 6 days ago, the like-dislike ratio was pretty much 50-50. It was like 15,000 dislikes, 14,000, or 15,000 likes, 14,000 dislikes. And now it's up to 70,000 dislikes, and it only grew to 22,000
It's going to get more and more, man.
Now, I don't think this is fully a criticism of trash taste. I think this is more of a repudiation of Hasan Piker.
Yeah, people are just rejecting him. I don't think people even watch this Trash Taste podcast, right? People just simply see him, they get triggered, they get upset, and they dislike it, and they leave comments saying, how dare you bring upon a terrorist sympathizer onto the podcast, unsubscribed, and so on and so forth.
As I pointed out in the previous video, he's been on the podcast before, but that was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people were as informed about some of his unhinged beliefs. And now that people are more familiar, thanks to a lot of videos calling him out, this is what people think of Hasan in anything he is a part of. And they are making it very well known in the dislike ratio there. And also, overall, that also was the result after he begged his own community to counter what he claimed was a brigade on him and the podcast episode. And that only made things worse.
To be fair, it was a brigade though, right? He's got a lot of different communities that fucking hate him. Destiny to mention one, or even Ethan Klein. Like, don't get it twisted. This is not random organic viewers of Trash Taste. There are zealots in there who probably have never even seen or heard of Trash Taste, but simply were told and got mobilized by their own like anti-Hasan communities and brigaded as well. So it's brigading from both ends of the spectrum.
By the way, but clearly his ego was very hurt by this. I think he went outside his own community and saw how badly he was received, and I think it made him very upset. Hence why he asked his own audience to go and try to remedy the situation. And we get it, right? Like, everyone who's on the internet and has some level of controversy attached to them, which I would say applies to pretty much everyone we're talking about today at some level, you're going to deal with people who are going to make viral tweets hating on you and things like that. You're not going to be well liked by everyone outside your community, but I think it's a little different when your mere presence on anything will draw a ton of negativity. And that's what's going on with Hasan Piker. And I think it's pretty obvious he's seeing this first and foremost and very clearly with the Trash Taste podcast, and it's just not going over well with him. Now, that's the first event I'm talking about here. I want to get to the second event.
Okay.
That's, of course, the Rat King himself, Asmongold.
Baldy!
In Hasan's own words, he has now overtaken the top spot as political streamer on Twitch. This is a...
He is. Dude, his YouTube channel is also fucking crazy. Every fucking video. I'm just literally getting American update news. Trump, Hasan, unbanned video, apology video. Trump, Shapiro, I think the Star Wars stuff. Trump news, Trump, Elon, Trump, Zelensky. Oh my God. There is a lot. And yeah, the numbers, the viewership does not lie. Asmongold pretty much is the #1 political like content creator, I guess, on Twitch, just based on concurrent viewership.
A label that Asmon doesn't even care for, and he still considers Hasan the top political streamer because it's not the only thing that Asmongold does. Well, it's still a good portion. It's not the only
big portion right now.
But yeah, to Hasan, this stuff matters. The numbers matter.
Yeah.
The labels matter because it's, you know, attached.
I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with being competitive and maybe even being jealous or envious, right? Obviously, you know, competition, it's always going to be there as long as you're not being overtly salty and you can acknowledge it and treat it as like, you know, inspiration or motivation and rivalry, right? Rather than just mulling up, oh my God, I can't believe my position has been stripped away.
To his ego. I think that's very obvious. And this clip right here is really telling of that. He's going after Asmongold and basically blaming him for a rise of right-wing sentiment permeating throughout the streaming world and honestly throughout the world is really what he's implying in many cases. And he again brings up the numbers and seems very insecure about it. Let's give this a quick listen.
If there wasn't such a high density of hogs that were like literally looking desperately for some kind of hog content on Twitch.
Hog meaning right-leaning, right? You're thinking about pigs, you're thinking about chuds, basically right-leaning people are portrayed in like a very uneducated and, you know, rude way.
Which led to a massive amount of people gravitating towards Asmongold and Asmongold getting like fucking 50K every day doing right-wing commentary. None of these motherfuckers would do this, okay?
Okay.
They just wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, kind of true though, right? Like if it wasn't for Asmon being able to be the voice that is able to represent a lot of the right-leaning ideologies that was censored, that was heavily scrutinized and discouraged in the last decade or so, absolutely, because Asmon is popping off and saying the things that was unpopular and kind of looked down upon, more and more people are becoming emboldened and leaning in with that and basically, you know, being a lot more like free to talk with such topics. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. That's for you to decide. I don't think he's like this right-wing Nazi though. I think that he objectively views everything, gives his own take for it. If you look at his chat, it's a fucking shit show. It's not an echo chamber, honestly. It's left side, right side, all arguing against each other. Asmon does not take an emotional stance. He always, you know, kind of like deals in cold, rational logic. And a lot of people may consider him to be like a grifter or be like, oh, he's right-leaning this, that. I think that he's pretty center on most things and he just objectively looks at what's going on and definitely has been harping right-leaning ideologies that a lot of people, again, it was heavily discouraged, heavily censored. Social media platforms would literally outright just censor you on that. But a lot of people have been just basically nerfed and kind of just chilling behind the scenes because it was not popular. But now that more people are being vocal about it, of course they're going to come out of the woodworks, and it kind of represents that. This is the true people though, right? The hogs that he speaks of, this is real people. It's not like you put your ideas out in the free marketplace of ideas, right? Then like the popular idea will rise up to the top. Just because it's not your opinions that you want being preached doesn't mean that the opposition is somehow inherently evil.
So first of all, calling Asmongold right-wing is hilarious. I think most people would view him as a centrist. He's a guy who is on many...
Sometimes he's got left positions, he's got right positions. It's just a lot of the content he's covering right now deals with a lot of right-leaning ideologies. That's why a lot of people would just assume this.
Different occasions, including recently said he wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders. So if he's some right-wing pundit, he's not a very good one, let's be honest. But this is the deal here. So he's at first implying that people are only speaking out on certain things and criticizing certain things and sharing certain opinions because Asmongold basically made it okay and they want to grift, right? They see the numbers he polls and they want to emulate those numbers. It's only about numbers and popularity with whatever they're sharing, and now they're being...
I mean, there is a lot of jealousy kind of like sprinkled in, talking about the viewership and basically justifying I'm no longer #1 because he is tapping into the right-leaning sphere.
Emboldened by Asmongold. And I think that's, number one, pretty insidious. It's basically implying that there are a lot of people out there who have these beliefs, but were afraid to say them because, well, let's face it, the last...
Absolutely. This is an objective fact. Like, the government ruling, the people in power, everything is pretty much democratic, liberal, left-leaning, right? Anything you talk about right-leaning stuff, you get censored on social media. Absolutely. People have been just kind of... They basically were forced to just hibernate until now.
Half a decade or so, cancel culture has been a real thing. If you had wrong think or you criticize the wrong thing, your life could literally be over. And now that sort of phase is dying out and people are finally speaking up. And speaking up for what turns out to be the majority opinion in many regards. And I think the reason Asmongold is so popular, especially right now, is because
he doesn't take a team side. It's not like tribalism. It's not left versus right. It's just cold, hard logic. Sensation, just rational logic. And I think a lot of people appreciate it. That's why I watch his content a lot. Because you don't have to agree with everything he's saying. But at the very least, he genuinely tries to see things and remove the emotional component and tries to rationalize why things are the way they are, not really justifying it. And I think a lot of people find that authenticity and genuineness very refreshing in this world of media where everything is so heavily propagandized and has a clear narrative in which side they want you to think for.
His opinion on things is not right-wing or left-wing or anything like that. It's just common sense. It's the type of opinion that the average person would at least have a somewhat positive view of. They may not agree with everything he's saying, but they might at least find what he's saying to be reasonable and not something extreme like sympathizing with terrorists or something like that. If you asked 90% of the people what they thought about his average take, I think they wouldn't have much of a problem with it. And he has proven that through his views, I mean, every video getting around 1 million+ views on every political topic, he's proven that a lot of these opinions are popular. And I think that has emboldened people not to...
Now, it doesn't mean bigger number, better person. But there has to be some sort of logic behind. Why do you think so many people are watching him? Why do you think so many people are agreeing with him? Are they all just a bunch of hogs? Are they a bunch of idiots that don't even know what they're talking about? I feel that's a bit unreasonable. I think that at the end of the day, people watch him, he gets the numbers because he comes from a place of genuine authenticity and talks about, again, pure cold logic and removes the emotional component. And it's very refreshing when, in this world, everyone is trying to, be like, are you team left? Are you team right? It's just like, no, brother, I don't care. I want to just talk about the talking points, the ideas at hand.
Grift off of that, but to think, oh, I can actually share my opinions on things, and this is actually popular right now, and I'm not going to get a brigade of people trying to cancel me and ruin my life for criticizing what they might consider the wrong thing. Okay, and no content creator is ever perfect, okay? But again, in this sort of conversation between Asmongold and Hasan, who's going to relate more to the common person with their views? Like, I think
that's the thing too. I think Hasan, if he really wants to, again, be able to influence more people to his ideology, this is too extreme, right? I think he honestly has lost the sauce. His growth, again, before, when I used to watch him a lot back in 2019, 2020, the talking points, the things that he was talking for, they were great. Very working class pro things, a lot of left-leaning ideologies, right? Down with the corporate oligarchies that basically has control everything, right? And, basically just uplifting the common person. These are very agreeable things that everyone can get behind. And I think that's why a lot of people has sided with them over these last couple of years growing up. But with success, I guess it kind of stokes your ego. You're kind of emboldened to say more and more extreme things. He has, this isn't just me saying it. He himself has admitted that obviously he does have, ideologies that he wants to push. He is trying to propagandize, right? He has his own set of biases that he wants to force upon people and kind of educate them and kind of join his cause. But acts like this, I think, alienates more people. You're too lost in the sauce. the Bald Roach King is able to relate to more people because, again, he just comes from such a emotionless, this cold logic rather than thinking left or right. But I feel like if you really want to be relatable again, like you can't do these extreme takes.
We're talking about some pretty common viewpoints versus extreme ones. And I think it's pretty obvious which one of those labels applies to each person in this scenario. And like it or not in this particular situation, but the general population voted for this sort of stuff. And, you know, again, we're talking about the labels here, but let's hear a little more because he's very upset about losing this top spot.
That's it. For a lot of people, it's not like a genuinely held perspective. For many of them, they just don't care. It comes from a place of like, I don't really give a shit.
Apathy.
I don't really necessarily give a shit about politics, but I see that this is like getting clout. And the perfect example I can give you is when the most prominent voice of politics on the platform before this last round was myself.
Yeah.
He's mentioned it twice in 30 seconds. Have you seen that? Any clip you find of Hasan right now is mentioned.
To be fair, he was #1 for a long time. But yeah, obviously you can tell that this is really annoying him.
Mentioning that he has fallen behind Asmongold in this race for the top position of political streamer on Twitch,
But Asmon's not even trying to be that. Like, straight up, he's like, bro, I don't care about #1 politics or whatnot. I'm just doing content because it's an easy farm. It just feels like such a one-sided beef when we're just talking about the viewership when the #1 guy, the Roach King, doesn't even give a fuck about it.
Is a lone race because Asmongold doesn't even care for the label. But again, with this whole general population label he's giving, the general population is not agreeing with you right now on all these things. I think
but they're hogs, so they don't matter. They're a bunch of right-leaning hogs, grifters. All of those people are out of touch and they're not real. It's like, no, come on. It's like they're real people. Like that's like the masses. This is like the average person tuning in, listening, and agreeing with these points.
A lot more people are agreeing with the takes that Asmongold has because, again, they represent what most normal people think. They're not as extreme as a bunch of wackadoos on Twitter or Reddit will try to make you feel like they are. But proof of that really shows just in the coverage of the Trash Taste podcast situation. Look at the way people agree with this. The like-dislike ratio, 54,000 likes versus around 700 dislikes. That's roughly a 98% like-dislike ratio
really good.
On a very controversial topic, directly talking about this relevant situation involving Hasan. I think, again, it shows he has a pretty agreeable opinion even on some more controversial topics. And let's not forget, the clip in particular that fueled this entire conversation was this right here.
Oh boy.
This was a Worcester, Massachusetts City Council vote where a group of LGBT people wanted to make the city a sanctuary for transgender and gender diverse people. And this is what we were talking about. And then Hasan was upset about some comments that Amaranth of all people made about this. And first of all, if you're listening
more
to
drama
Amaranth
coming
has
in
to say about pretty much anything, you've already kind of lost. But anyways, they're basically trying to say, Hasan's trying to say that Asmongold and people like that have radicalized people to say all these crazy, unhinged things, referring to their criticisms of this clip.
No, I think, again, like, people aren't radicalized in saying all these shit. I think that, again, so many people have been censored and nerfed and were too scared to share their more right-leaning ideologies because of how much social media and everyone else just, like, punishes it. Right? That was not the correct thing to say. That was not the meta. But now that the political paradigm shift has happened and, you know, someone's popular like Asmond is now talking about those things, they're becoming more emboldened and are able to speak on it. I don't think it means that they're grifters, though. They're not all just fucking there grifting. I think that there's genuinely a silenced majority who felt very, like, what's the word? Frustrated. They felt that, like, they couldn't say what they wanted to really say, but now they see, like, holy shit. We're finally unnerfed. The ban is over. Now we can actually share our actual ideas. And the reason why it must seem like it's such a sudden shift is because, again, this shit was not allowed to be said until very recently. So obviously a bunch of people who've been hiding in the woodsheds for a long time can finally come out and support their ideas. it may look ingenuine, but I think, again, a lot of people have just been waiting and biding their time until now.
Now, of course, most people find this to be crazy. Let's watch what we're talking about here.
If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
I'm shaking.
Is that a threat? Oh, I don't know. That sounded like a threat.
Right now, I don't want to be here. I'm sorry. Am I taking too long pleading for my life?
You remembered how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense physical pain. I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have narcolepsy, and I couldn't drive
That's a
myself
lot of
here,
debuffs.
So I had to hide from my driver that I was in drag, which is not an easy thing to do in drag.
I do not want to be here. It's my day off. I do not want to be in your DMs. I do not want to be in your email inboxes. I do not want my creativity writing diss tracks like Kendrick. I don't want to spend an hour applying
Rev, don't make me watch 5 minutes of this, please.
so that you will hear and see me.
You guys literally made her put that glitter on her face. But anyways, this is an example of
stuff like this alienates more and more people to become more pro towards trans causes, man. I get that they're frustrated. I get that this new, president coming in is basically denouncing their existence, but at the same time, like, this is not really the way to go and all about it. If you want to convince, like, new people, if you want to convince the masses to side with you, like, if you show the average person this, they're gonna think that you're so fucking weird. They're gonna think that this is a shit show, a clown show. I think that you should leave trans people alone. I think that, like, it must feel so fucking bad to be discriminated upon like that, right? Absolutely, to be a marginalized group, it must suck. I can empathize with them, but at the same time, if you want people to, like, join your cause, I don't know if this is really the right way to kind of do public relations. This, again, just further pushes the common person away. They can't relate.
Of the type of clip you show 90% of people in the world and they'll be like, yeah, that's weird. This looks like a blue sky meetup. Okay, these people are unhinged, and these are the type of people calling you a bigot and a freak on social media, right? But that's what we're talking about here. And this is Asmongold's coverage of that clip that is being referenced in this entire situation. And you can see how people viewed his opinion that is basically stating this is a clown show, right?
To be fair, it is a clown show.
I think people agree. 81,000 likes, 500 dislikes. That's a 99 plus like-dislike ratio on 2.5 million views, by the way. So this left the ether of the monolith of Asmongold's followers. Clearly, a lot of people agree that this is outlandish behavior. And I don't think this is some right-wing extremism. I don't think Asmongold is influencing anyone. I think he's speaking.
Like, you could, like, maybe try to exaggerate it and be like, oh my god, this is so anti-trans. How dare you laugh at people who are trying to make a, a plead for their lives. But at the same time, if you just listen to that clip just like what we just did, it's really hard to get the average person again to side with them. This is too hysterical. It's too insane. There needs to be, like, calm, rational thinking rather than just having a public meltdown in drag clothing.
A commonly held belief about stuff like this. Okay, this is a clown show. You show this to a regular person, they probably agree. And that's really all there is to say about this, because we also see how deep this goes. He is directly blaming Asmongold for...
By the way, I low-key kind of regret clicking onto this video because I thought we are just going to be talking about trash taste and anime-related stuff. This video is so broad. And it's just basically just all politics. Like, fuck, what have I done? But we're basically 30 minutes into the recording. We're almost done. We only got a little bit more left. Bear with me.
For causing all this radicalization. The irony, by the way.
Why they're saying
this is, in many ways, no different than...
What's happening right now? So we're watching. I'm reacting to Rev, reacting to Hasan, reacting to Amaranth, reacting to Asmongold. Are we on a new level of reacception right now?
And when Elon Musk hits the fucking sig heil, other people do it too, and it normalizes that kind of attitude. It normalizes that kind of politics, and it's precisely the same thing that's happening here. Okay. Asmongold says a bunch of unhinged shit and he's popping off.
Okay.
Other content creators see that, as I've told you before, and they respond to it. They see that and they go, ooh, I can get in on this as well.
Amaranth?
So what he's saying is content creators like Asmongold are normalizing unhinged behavior and normalizing.
Basically, he's rationalizing that all these viewership, all these big numbers are the cause of the Bald Roach King emboldening the grifters to come out and say these right-leaning ideologies. I don't really think so. At the end of the day, again, I think there's been a huge group of people who's been silenced, who were uncomfortable about sharing their actual opinions because of how social media algorithms punish that kind of behavior. Things have changed. People are not coming out of the woodshed. They're becoming more comfortable to say it. These are not all just random grifters. They are real people, sensible, average people that are supporting just logic rather than thinking they're all just right-leaning.
Very dangerous things people are saying. Let me just remind us of where we started this video.
About $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid, just in fraud alone. No.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott.
That's how we started the video. Okay, we're not even getting into the terrorist sympathizing and the platforming of terrorists. And
it does feel like he's really lost the sauce, though. Man, what happened to the Hasan of 2019-2020, man? That's the Hasan that I was proud to say that, like, yep, this is my streamer. This is the guy that I share ideologies with. Haven't watched him for a long time, and things have changed. Things have ramped up like crazy. This is insane. This is sad.
The comments about 9/11 and all these crazy unhinged things that literally go on a list that's so long it's hard to keep track of what's going on. But yeah, this is the person angry at you for normalizing what? Looking at a very bizarre scene and saying, yeah, that's a bunch of weird people. I don't know. There's really nothing else to say on this situation. Two real pain points for Hasan that have struck his most valuable currency, which is his ego, of course. And that's the Trash Taste podcast situation that has only gotten worse for him. And then, of course, getting dethroned as the top political streamer on
to a Bald Roach King who don't even care about that shit. What's the lesson in this video? I don't know. It just feels like once you start growing and growing, you lose more in touch with relatability. Like the extreme radicalized takes, and then to gaslight other people thinking that like, oh no, you're, you know, radicalizing other people, emboldening them to the grift. I don't know. I just feel like there's a level of hypocrisy here. Anyways, this is a pretty out of topic random video. I want to go watch the actual Connor video talking about anime and more stuff like that. Please go check out Rez's video. Here's the link to the video. Go give it a like if you did. See you next time.